Happy hello everyone. Hey, do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's a great sentiment, if not always practical. Fortunately, for those of you who don't love your job, there is still a way that you can whistle while you work.
My name is Ryan Wingfield and my job is to make people happy. After years of doing stand-up comedy, I've devoted an entire year to the study of happiness. Join me each week right here on a Road Comics Road to Happiness.
I personally believe everyone should have a job that they hate before they settle on a career. Whether that be a manual labor job, such as a janitor, or perhaps fast food, or just a job with a terrible boss, like a political intern. Just like having a crazy ex-girlfriend can help you appreciate your wife, having a terrible job can help you appreciate doing something else for a living. Not to mention, it can teach you some respect for people who do that job. Seriously, leave your waitress a decent tip. What you do for work can have a big impact on your happiness, at least for 40 or so hours each week. One study calculated that your work satisfaction accounts to 20 to 25% of your overall life satisfaction. If you want to know how your job affects you, think of how you describe it to other people. There are three main ways people describe what they do for a living: a job, a career, or a calling. A job is something people do for the money, the mantra of every stripper ever. A career is something with an upward path, such as a promotion or a raise. A calling is something that people feel that they were meant to do, and it should come as no surprise that these are the people with the highest level of work happiness. These lucky few feel that their job achieves a higher purpose, and that by doing it, they are helping to contribute to the greater good. For example, a comedian who decided that his job was to make people happy one audience at a time, and then to take those lessons of happiness and produce a web series about happiness where he could subtly brag about how awesome his life is. Let's face it, not everyone may feel that they have a calling, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you can't be happy at work. Positive psychologists just recommend trying to change your approach to your job. Some of their suggestions include play to your strengths. If you're a good presenter, offer to present more at work. If the only thing you're good at is making coffee, well, maybe consider becoming a barista. Set non-material goals, both short-term and long-term. They can give you a sense of excitement about the future and a feeling of accomplishment when you achieve them. Just try not to compare yourself too much to the success of your coworkers. There's always someone better. Get a work friend. It doesn't have to be a BFF, but someone who you can chew the fat with will help relieve a lot of the stress of the workday. Just be careful about bad-mouthing the boss when you're grabbing a drink with that friend at the end of the day. Your work friend may be your boss's work friend too. Oh no! If none of these ideas work, you may want to try the nuclear option of quitting your job and finding a better one. You have probably heard that Google is one of the best companies to work for. I know because I Googled it. The company regularly ranks at the top of Forbes magazines of companies to work for. Not only does it include high salaries and an innovative work experience, it also gives you 12 weeks of paid maternity and paternity leave and offers one of the nicest office campuses in the world with luxury restaurants, free oil change, and massages. It's probably the closest thing you can get to lifestyles of the rich and famous while still actually working for a living. When it comes to regular jobs, those that rank among the happiest tend to vary depending on the survey. But according to the online job site Career Bliss, in 2015, school principal was ranked as the happiest job in the country. That's right, the job where you have to juggle multiple responsibilities, including budgets, prom, homecoming, not to mention moody children and their pissed off parents, is the best job in the country when it comes to happiness. Apparently, the success of seeing children grow into adults and leave off to make the world a better place counters a lot of the negative. You'll notice job satisfaction and creativity are a common theme in the list of top happiness jobs. By the way, this is a list of just regular jobs. That's why specialty jobs such as video game tester and movie star who gets to make out with Jennifer Lawrence aren't mentioned. As for what jobs you may want to avoid, well, security guard comes in at the top of that list. It really has a lot not going for it. Terrible hours, poor pay, boring, repetitive work, and worst of all, in movies, jewel thieves are constantly knocking you out. You can see from the other jobs on the least happy list, anything where you're confined to a small workspace or have to deal with customers is a recipe for a terrible workday. By the way, am I the only one who is surprised that customer service isn't at the top of this list? If you do hate your job, you can at least take some solace in knowing that you aren't alone. A recent study found that only about 30% of Americans are excited about what they do for a living, where about half are apathetic, and the rest are just showing up to steal office supplies. Those dissatisfied employees are estimated to cost companies over $500 billion each year in lost productivity. And that's not even counting the cost of the stolen office supplies. One study found a lack of salary as the 5th most common reason people hate their jobs. Other top reasons include too much office red tape, a lack of feeling challenged, and people just not doing what they love for a living. In fact, a lack of passion for one's job was the highest reason for dissatisfaction, second only to having a jerk for a boss. Not too much you can do about that one though. But be warned, if you do have a jerk for a boss, the effects may go beyond your workday. One study found that people who don't get along with their boss are 30% more likely to suffer a heart attack. So, if your boss is a jerk, make sure your company at least has a good healthcare plan. If you do happen to be a boss and you're afraid you might fall into the jerk category, there are a lot of things you can do to improve that. Possibly the most important is to remember this number, 2.9013, also known as the Losada line. This number, named after psychologist and business consultant Marcio Losada, has been calculated to be the ratio of positive to negative comments necessary to make a productive work environment. In other words, employees need almost 3 times as many positive comments, expressions, or experiences to counteract the disruptive effects of 1 negative one. When employees fall below this number, productivity suffers. When they rise above it, productivity improves, maximizing at a ratio of about 6 to 1. Anything more than that, and you're basically just stroking their ego. But even when your job is the greatest thing in the world, there is still the problem of getting to it. Next week, I'll be taking a look at the worst part of your workday, the commute. That's all for this edition of A Road Comics Road to Happiness. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave any happy comments below. I'll see you next week with a look at why your commute may be costing you your marriage. Until then, stay happy.